Welcome back to Cards and Comics. It's been a long time since I've done a Hobby Talk video, and I'm coming at you live from Santiago, Chile. So I've been traveling a lot. I've been in Holland, Spain, now I'm in Chile, and I want to just take some time to talk about, what's been going on with me from a hobby perspective, and I want to talk to you about the subject of the video, which is what can happen when a big whale enters a card market. And I want to give you some examples because it's directly affecting, me and what I collect. So I'm going to start off with a big thank you as I'm getting closer to 900 subscribers. And everyone who watches a video and clicks on a video just for a second to give me a view, I appreciate you. Anyone who comments, you guys are awesome. I just want to start there. Secondly, I want to kind of just turn the camera around and you can maybe see out the window a little bit, and you can see I am in Chile. You can see the mountains. So that is where I'm at right now. So let's get to the topic of what I've been buying and really focused on. And I am probably buying more this year than I did last year, for sure. I know I am. Secondly, is I'm very interested in building out my vintage collection while continuing my Ken Griffey Jr. 90s insert collection, and kind of doubling down on both. If you go on my Instagram, which is Cards and Comics, I think 877. Maybe there's another 7 in there. I don't know. It's in my description on my YouTube channel. But if you go into Cards and Comics on Instagram, you can see a lot of my new pickups, and they are mostly vintage and Griffey. Some hockey, some football, but focused directly on vintage and 90s cards. That's really what I've been paying attention to. So that leads me into this next topic, which is what happens when a whale enters a market. And I'm going to use Ken Griffey Jr. because he's the alpha and omega 90s insert collected player of baseball. And I don't do Michael Jordan, or I'm sure there's a lot of examples for Michael Jordan. So the person in question that has the Griffey community all in a titter, as you would say, is that Nate Turner is now heavily focused on Ken Griffey Jr. cards. And I'm going into the eBay sold auctions here. And again, these are auctions, so these are for the most part cards that were up for bid. Anyone could have purchased them. The consensus was 2 months ago amongst a lot of Griffey collectors that the market was down a little bit. A Fortune 15 refractor PSA 10 sold half of what it had previously sold, and the Griffey market, for the most part, had not seen a lot of the collapse as on the high-end insert side, as you saw with let's say base cards like the Upper Deck Rookie and other cards that were just more common. So you can see like this Chirography Gold Auto number to 24 just sold for $22,000. A gold number to 100 Legends Auto just sold for $18,006. So again, these are really big sales, a month ago. And what we're seeing is that, and what a lot of collectors are saying is, it's almost impossible to win some of these cards because there is someone on the other end always, overbidding, what collectors think the cards are worth. And that's a big sign that a whale has entered the waters, is that last time a card sold $4,000, you put a bid of, let's say $5,000 in because you really want the card. You're 25% over last sold, and then it goes for $6,000, $7,000. And you're like, what the hell? Like, what happened? Like, I went well above and beyond what the last time this card sold for. And it's because the person on the other end doesn't really care what they pay for the card because they think it's rare and they need it for the collection. And that happens quite a bit when the whale enters the waters. Is you kind of have to either spend way more than you're comfortable spending, or you just have to let things go and wait for another copy to show up. Or, in my case, what I've done is I just don't collect the PSA 10s. A lot of times, the whales come in looking for the highest graded version of those cards. And I'll show you a good example as I walk through these massive Griffey sales cards. So scroll down to, hang with me for a minute. It's coming. Good example here, 96 Topps Chrome Refractor. I own a PSA 8, which cost me less than $1,000. This is a PSA 10. It costs almost $9,000. So that is what is, some of the hard facts of being some of these collectors of popular players. Maybe you can't afford the PSA 10 copies. You may have to go for the 9s or the 8s. And I talk to collectors all the time on Instagram, on Facebook, and it's hard for some collectors to not get, let's say, the best version of the card. It actually, makes them either want to quit collecting, or it's hard for them to, accept that they can't get, the better version of the copy, the higher grade copy. And so that's something you have to, as a collector, really, if you're really wanting to have a PSA 10 collection and the whale enters the water, you're going to have to either really overpay, but in some cases you just can't win. And I think that's really what's happening right now is in a lot of cases, and I'll give you an example is, that you can't win some of these cards. It's just, unless you're a millionaire, unless you're a whale yourself, lots of disposable income. For normal collectors with normal budgets, you're just going to have to accept that fact. And I'll give you one more example just to show you sort of how this affects, as a collector, what can happen. All right, so what I'm showing here is some cards that just sold recently on eBay for Griffey. And these are what we call Flair Legacy Showcase. These are numbered to 99 or 100, depending on what year. And you can see two cards here, one a SGC 9 and one a PSA 8, sold around $800. So that is what a lot of people thought these cards, were going to sell for, when this other collector, lister or other seller listed 4 of these, two from 98, 2 from 99. And you can see one did sell for $866. Okay, pretty close. One sold for $1281. So now you've got sort of a $400 variance on what the card last brought. Then you have one that sold for $760, and that's me. Hello, me. I bought that one because I was bidding on all 4 of these, and then one brought $1122. And so that is a good example of, and these were all PSA 8, so they're not the high-end 9 or 10, and this card was a 9. But I think this is where you get into, where a card like this brings $1,200, which is basically 1.5 times the last time it sold, which just sold literally 9 days prior. And that's the effect, is that it changes the market dramatically for what you think the cards are worth. You can't really predict where this collector, this whale, is really valuing the cards, because you're trying to do this in a rational manner. You're trying to, think, okay, maybe 10%, 20%, 30%. They're just thinking, I want the card and I'm going to buy it. And money doesn't really matter. They just want to win the card, so they're going to bid, as much as possible to win the card. And that is, just what we're seeing in auctions like this, where within 9 days, the card basically goes up 1.5 times. And so taking it back to just market dynamics as a whole, this is why collectibles and sports cards, you really can't have a rational thought process to how you want to go about building collections or buying cards in auctions like this, because there's a lot of factors at play. One of the factors that comes into play is that in a lot of cases, these sellers will sell a lot of these cards all at once. There's a big Instagram and Facebook collector out there that has sold a lot of Griffey's from his collection in waves on eBay, where he lists 20 or 30 of these high-end, very expensive cards all at once. And so as you're going through, you're kind of seeking out the ones you're interested in, what you're going to pay max, what your budget is, and as soon as you blow your budget, you win one or two, you're done. And maybe a card you would have liked later on in the auction sells a lot cheaper. Then you wish you would have had the money to buy it, but you had to do it based on time. And this kind of is similar here, where you've got 4 legacy Griffey cards all selling within, let's say, minutes of each other, and you're having to calculate how much you're willing to pay, how much you're willing to overpay, because now a few of them are selling for higher than you thought, and you're just kind of having to wing it. If you really want one of these, you put a bid of $2,000 and pay, almost 3 times what the last one sold, so that you can at least win one, right? Or do you stick to your guns and then keep your budget at like $1,000, like I did? And I won the one for $760, and the one I won for $760 was probably the least desirable of all 4 of them, because it doesn't show Griffey batting. It shows him throwing the ball, and it's from the 98 set, which is numbered out of 100. It's a PSA 8, and again, a lot of factors, but you can see, the one above it that showed him batting sold for about $400 more. So again, a lot of factors at play, right? That changes the values as you work on building your collections over the years. And I think that is something that I just want to convey to people, is that when you hear people talk about the market's going up, the market's going down, there's recovery. For collectibles like these Griffey cards, where one person like a Nate Turner can come into the market and just blow the entire budget of collectors, because we're all competing for the same cards, change the dynamics in the hobby for these cards, in one day, where cards that were selling for $800 are now selling for $1,200 to $2,000. That's the power of that person. But when they have the card, like I told you with the Fortune 15 Griffey, which has sold for $7,000 or $8,000, then sells for $4,000. Once they have the card they need, these prices will go back down. So waiting till kind of that whale market goes away, and then coming in later is probably the best strategy for collectors who have to collect on a budget. So I just want to kind of give you an idea of like what's happening in the Griffey collecting world, what I'm doing, buying Griffey cards, but trying to stay within rational budgets and numbers. But I'm affected by this as well as like everyone else. And a couple auctions on eBay from these sellers that are selling these high-end Griffies, I've been shut out. I've gotten 0 cards multiple times because they just go too much money. I don't, for what I want to pay, or in some cases, I just got outbid. I was willing to pay more, but I just got outbid at the last second, and just lost it because I didn't anticipate the card selling for as much. So that's it, guys. That's my update and kind of talking to you about what the whale economy looks like for Griffey cards, and this is very similar to other cards, so you can just kind of apply this to all other collectibles like sports cards when this happens. So see you next time in Cards and Comics, and bye.